Howdy, hello there. It is live stream Tuesday, but you may be watching this at any other given time. So welcome. I appreciate you stumbling across this video. And I am going to cover two main topics today. Number one is a follow-up, kind of a continuation of a theme I've been going on and on about this spring, as it's something that I take personally, but I try to evaluate objectively from a scientific and a intellectual level, and as a personal level, having experienced some of this, and that is as it relates to the ketogenic diet in the average adult and also in the athlete. So I'm going to be talking about some studies and some review articles that have continued to draw some conclusions that aren't really backed up by the science of those studies. Number two, I want to delve in a little bit more into the fish oil issue and the controversy I raised a couple of weeks ago about quality. And if you are taking a fish oil supplement, listen to this, and because you may be doing yourself more harm than good. And it's very, very clear that's often the case with a lot of fish oil supplements. Okay, so first off, number one, this idea of a low-carb diet in athletes. I'll just quickly go in and I'm going to reference, I got an email that I get updates from the Metabolic Health Institute, the Metabolic Health Summit individuals who are doing their yearly conference and following a lot of the research. And they referenced a review article that came out that had some positives about the ketogenic diet and some negatives. So one of the things that caught my eye is these negative aspects where they're indicating that, and these often happen to be in animals, mainly in mice, where they're finding, for instance, they showed a decrease in glucose tolerance, poor glucose tolerance in the liver, and some increase in fatty acids in the liver, and really a lot of what appears to be the opposite of what other research is showing. So there's two articles. Let me do a quick screen share and show you those. And now the review article did point out some promising anti-inflammatory effects that we've seen. Increased fatty acid oxidation, increased mitochondrial function, enhanced ketolytic and lipolytic metabolism, lower lactate production post-exercise, slower decline in glycogen. So also less exercise-induced muscle organ damage. So certainly some positives, and they did touch on those articles, but let's go in and screen share. I think I can do this more quickly these days. Application window, here we go. All right, so I'll try to make this a little more, a little bit bigger. Let's see. I think I can do full size. Zoom. Here we go. All right, so long-term ketogenic diets cause glucose intolerance and reduced beta and alpha cell mass, but no weight loss in mice. So, that doesn't sound good, does it? Well, a couple of problems with this as I read through the study, and a number of animal studies have, especially often in mice, it's very easy to do studies, or a lot easier to do studies in mice to get sort of trends and certainly good information when it comes to how certain things impact various life forms. At least they're mammals, and there's a long tradition, well, a lot of precedent for using mice. So I don't have a problem with using mice in research. Any ethical things aside, I'm just talking about applicability to humans and our understanding. It's been pretty helpful. So in this particular study, we've got, let's see, Ellen Brock et al. This was published March 1st of 2014 in the American Journal of Physiology, Endocrinology, and Metabolism. So it was a high-fat, low-carbohydrate, ketogenic diet. It was like I said, shown in mice, and I think it went for 22 weeks. And going through this, here was the problem. They referenced that, let me see, animals and modes. Let's see. The proportion of calories derived from nutrients for the ketogenic diet was similar to these other studies they referenced. The control diet is described in Table 1. So here's Table 1. Here's my problem. Okay, they're doing a ketogenic diet intervention in mice and then looking at these outcomes. This is not an appropriate correlative study in terms of the macronutrients, in terms of what we are applying today and what I mean, so I've been following this for about 3 years. I've been reading the research and the studies and physicians and doctors and researchers who are using low carbohydrate diets as interventions in medicine, in athletes, and in cancer, diabetes, etc. And I have never seen anyone touting and promoting this kind of macronutrient makeup. So 5.9 kilocalories per 100 kilocalories of protein, 1.0 kilocalories per 100 kilocalories, and then on the fat, 93.1. Translated, let's put these into percentages that we often use. 5.9 calories per 100 of protein translates to 6% protein. Okay, so that's a little low. So already kind of a red flag. It's like, well, are you even meeting the basic amino acid protein needs of this animal? 6% is a very low protein diet, and I would suggest that that's malnutrition for any mammal. So carbohydrates, 1.0 per 100. Don't need to do any calculating on that. That's 1%. This is a 1% carbohydrate diet. And then lastly, fat, of course, 93%. This is one of my pet peeves. A ketogenic diet is not a zero carb diet. It is not a nearly 100% fat diet. Now, historically, there's a lot of evidence and research showed some detrimental effects of very strict ketogenic diets as they were being used in children for especially the epilepsy and the diets that were developed many, many, many years ago. There were benefits, but they were very extreme, and these kids developed some malnutrition syndromes, including protein deficiency and especially micro mineral deficiencies like selenium deficiencies, inducing cardiac problems. As we know now, of course, even the macros aside, as we know, it is very crucial for us all to be getting the micronutrients we need. I'm talking vitamins and minerals to sustain normal metabolic function. We are not just an empty engine that we dump fuel into, and even your car requires very specific supports and maintenance. You know, you need adequate air intake into a car. You need appropriate lubrication and oil. You have various fluids and cooling systems on electronic controls. So very crude sense, our bodies are very much like that, in that we need these micronutrients to support the metabolic activities. As we burn carbohydrates for energy, we need those cofactors. Anyway, so that aside, and then also we know, like I said, all modern recommendations in terms of implementing an appropriate low-carb ketogenic diet, these percentages are so far off, and I'll just rehash those. I mean, roughly we're looking at 15 to 20% for protein. You know, you're at the 5 to 10% typically for carbs. So we're at 5 to 10 times the amount of carbohydrates compared to these very strict low carb diets. And then finally, in the fat percentages, as we know, 70 to 80% from fats. So, and I looked at these other references as they said, I guess this has been the norm. Hey, if this other study is using these kinds of percentages, that's what we should do to do this study. Let's keep repeating the same studies so we come to the same conclusions that a ketogenic diet is bad. It's like, what are we learning here? So I looked up another article. Let me go out of full screen here to this other one. This is a very low carbohydrate ketogenic diet improves glucose tolerance in OB mice independently of weight loss. So this actually did show some benefits, but again, the percentages were very, very similar. You can jump down. Actually, I wrote it down. I won't look for the fine print because I already read it. It's in this study, 4.5% calories from protein, 0.4% carbohydrates, 95% fats. And so this, I believe it was a shorter term study, so it did show an initial benefit. But as I mentioned in the prior study, you go a long period of time, you're inducing a very unnatural and unhealthy diet after, you know, and so anyway, back to the humans and athletes and the whole debate. Let me go back out of screen share here. And screen share. All right, so take home message. We are not talking about an extreme low carbohydrate, high fat diet. You could come to the same conclusions of how malnourished people can get if you did. I mean, imagine if we were doing studies on a 95% carbohydrate diet and just a few percentages of protein. People have eaten that way and they induce lots of health problems. You've got to have enough protein to maintain normal immunity, rebuilding cellular function. You've got macronutrients are not just fuel, they are supportive elements for rebuilding and maintaining our bodies. Our bodies are in a constant state of turnover. And so, you know, just take a typical, fortunately it's not that typical, but take what we could all agree on as a healthy diet that's very balanced. Okay, let's just say a whole foods diet with lots of leafy greens and root vegetables, and you know, maybe even a little whole grains or even a lot of whole grains, and you throw in some animal protein, some legumes and beans. Okay, let's take an average plate of that and let's analyze it to the best of our abilities for not just the macronutrients, but the micronutrients, so the vitamins, the minerals, the cofactors. What we'll see is a very varied, very wide and important spectrum of things that support life on this planet. So now we take science and we're artificially creating a diet that's very unnatural, and we're lumping it into this you know, they abbreviate the ketogenic diet as KD. So you see, oh, the KD diet is doing this and it's bad and this and that. And then you've got doctors and the news and articles, publicity, they're touting and referencing, oh, the study caused, you know, oh, you're going to clog your arteries and you're having liver damage and you're getting more insulin resistance from these high fat diets. And my perspective on this is that this is poor science, poor interpretation, and the wrong message. Okay, so, and I've already talked enough about the targeted ketogenic diet, and especially as it pertains to the athlete. And these are individuals you're just trying to maintain health and have maybe a little bit of a performance edge for your sports. And it's clear that ketogenic adaptation and an appropriately implemented, very vegetable-rich, micronutrient-rich diet, and probably even supplementing with some key things, is very helpful in adapting the athlete for performance, and then using carbohydrates to turn on both engines. And so we're going to drive our hybrid metabolic system to provide both glucose, carbohydrate metabolism with improved fat metabolism as well. So it's a win-win. All right, so enough on that. Fatty oils, fatty acids, that is, from fish oil. So let me just kind of go through this really quick. I think I talked about this as well, but I want to probably link, I don't know if I did it in my prior video on fish oil, but I'll do it down below. The story of fish oil has become interesting because it's long been, when did fish oil supplementation begin? Well, way back, way in Scandinavia, right? Cod liver oil. Cod liver oil was given by the spoonful to the chagrin of many kids growing up in the early part of the last century. So It's a superfood. Fish, as we long know, seafood, of course, is clean as we can get, has a lot of essential nutrients in there. And so fish oil, though, is developed into an industry of packaging it that unfortunately has created a problem. What it is that they have basically kind of pharmaceuticalized, if that's even a real word, but they've purified fish oil and basically transformed the molecule, these fatty acids, into forms that they can concentrate and then put in a bottle and have, we're talking about the omega-3 fatty acids, primarily DHA and EPA. These are long fatty acid chains of carbon. They're the carbon with the hydrogen backbones that are attached to a glycerol molecule. Triglycerides, tri meaning 3, because there's 3 of these fatty acids attached. Most fats and oils in nature exist in that triglyceride form. And those triglycerides have different kinds of chains, different lengths, and different levels of saturation. And they have different effects on the body. And we need a lot of different kinds of fats. But the omega-3 refers to how many sort of open spots on this long carbon backbone molecule that you have. And they're very unique to human physiology, so they're important for nerve and cellular development. The cellular wall, the cell wall, it uses those. It's involved with the inflammatory response with the immune system and the eicosanoids and the system of inflammation, essentially. So the omega-3s are an important part of the more anti-inflammatory side, but they're really in terms of balancing a lot of different physiology. So the EPA and DHA you only get from animal sources and some algae. There's some, I think, synthesized through fermentation, but primarily in fish and other animals, marine animals. So what we learned, of course, is that those specific omega-3s are the most important, the EPA and DHA. And so what industry has learned how to do is to basically cleave these molecules. They remove those fatty acids from the glycerol backbone, and then you can constantly remove some of the fatty acids that aren't the omega-3s or the shorter chains, and they concentrate those long fatty acid chains. Then they re-esterify, they do esterification, which is where they kind of reassemble them with more of those ones we want. But those, when you leave them in the free fatty acid form, or they recombine in an unnatural way, the body does not utilize them properly. They aren't digested very well. They end up passing through. If you've ever experienced the burps from fish oil, even upset stomach, maybe you don't even notice that, but I have seen lab results proving that those highly concentrated and unnatural fatty acid supplements, the omega-3 fish oil supplements, actually can cause more inflammatory and detrimental effects in your physiology. This is going to be your cheaper over-the-counter stuff, drugstore, Costco, your box stores, and elsewhere. You're going to often find inferior fish oil, and you may not readily know it from just looking at the label. What you can find, though, is good quality fish oil where they're taking either the whole oil and just cleaning it and putting it in the bottle, or that's something like, your cod liver oil or the whole oils, and those are fine. But there's also a natural technique where they can assemble these better, longer fatty acid chains back to the original glyceride form and encapsulate those and provide a very helpful, beneficial fish oil. So you definitely want to look for natural triglyceride form, and you want to know what the percentage of triglycerides are in those products. They're definitely probably not going to put all that on the label, so you need to look, check into your brands. Nordic Naturals is one that I know produces a very superior product, and they've got a number of different ones that are more specialized to different age groups. And so to get the benefits of eating seafood and the omega-3 fish oils, you need that natural form, and you need to avoid the processed artificial forms. Do yourself a favor. Don't waste your money on cheap fish oil. Throw that stuff away and get the good stuff. So again, I'll put some links below on that. And honestly, a lot of the studies still show, you're best often eating seafood, but there are potentials for heavy metals and quality issues, and availability is often an issue. And so my rule of thumb is that I supplement with an omega-3 fatty acid frequently, supplement, and then just when I'm eating more seafood, I don't. So you can skip it that day. So I think I mentioned the krill oil controversy as well. There's a whole nother level of topic of conversation on this topic regarding the sustainability and the environmental impact of harvesting these omega-3s. And so basically krill oil has, like a lot of things, unfortunately, the industry gets so popular that a lot of corners start getting cut. And my concern was learning and thinking about the bycatch, or whatever they call it, where they're just doing these massive nets through the ocean to grab all these krill up, and then inadvertently killing a lot of other marine life. Not a good policy. So what companies like Nordic Naturals are doing is they're harvesting in ways that are very environmentally friendly, ethically friendly, if we're looking at just taking care of our resources. And so choose wisely on that count. And I'm having now, krill oil studies have shown it to be very beneficial, and I like it still in terms of quality and its effects on the body. But again, for those sustainability issues, I'm going to probably move more towards these better quality omega-3s from various fish animals, that is, and not the krill. So I'll call that a wrap. Thanks for watching. I'll put some links below. And again, always feel free to add questions and comments. And yeah, stay tuned for the next broadcast. Thanks for watching.